Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine. Looks like we've got a lot of news today coming out from this conflict, as yesterday, most of the media attention was directed towards what's going on with Israel and Hezbollah. But we've got big things to report here to you today. And we have this report that we're going to start off with. Looks like Russia has bombed Kharkiv once again. Kharkiv literally just got hit 2 days ago. We had a residential apartment building that was struck. It looks like another one again today. And apparently there was 82 people inside of this building at the time while it was struck. You can see massive damage to this building as a Russian glide bomb directly struck it. And we have reports that 31 people, as far as I know, have been injured, and 3 people losing their lives, unfortunately, in this event. Some people still trapped under the rubble at the time that this thing was hit. So we're going to be talking about this today. Also, 4 victims in serious condition undergoing surgery right now. So lots of people were affected by this very horrible attack. So apparently Russia was using Su-34s, which most likely were dropping these glide bombs from what I understand here. And we had 8 bombs dropped on Kharkiv in total. 2 of them hit the city center and 2 also outside in the suburbs of Kharkiv as well. Okay, so more information on that in just a moment. We also had reports that Belgorod was just coming under attack in the last hour or so at the time that I record this as well. So we will be talking about that. I've got a little bit of stuff coming out from Kursk and some other various updates in regards to this war. So we're going to go ahead and start jumping right into the news, and let me start sharing some of this information with you. So let's hop on over here to X. We're going to start with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, with his post on X. Another Russian strike on Kharkiv. The targets of the Russian bombs were an apartment building, a bakery, a stadium. In other words, the everyday life of ordinary people. Russia is a terrorist, and it proves this every day with its own actions, with its choice to wage war and attempts to expand it. At the moment, a rescue operation is underway in Kharkiv. All emergency services are on site. So far, we know of 3 killed and 24 injured. My condolences to all the families and friends affected. There is much discussion now at the UN General Assembly about collective efforts for security and the future, but we just need to stop the terror to have security, to have a future. We need Russia to end this criminal and unprovoked aggression that violates all global rules. I thank all the countries and leaders who help us protect our people's lives from Russian strikes. Okay, so he posted a couple pictures here that we'll take a look at. So we'll start with this one right here. As we can see, massive damage to this building, and apparently it was still partially on fire after it was struck. So again, 31 people injured. Last we knew, 3 people have been killed, unfortunately, in this attack. And from some other information that I had, like I said earlier, 82 people were inside of here. And apparently this building was also struck towards the beginning of the war, back in 2022 when this war was first brought out. And then also, they had just started to repair this building, and they were just starting to get the windows put back in and everything. And then Russia struck this same exact building again, is what was being reported, I believe, on Reuters. Okay, so we've got this other picture of a lot of the rubble there on the ground. So definitely another barbaric attack from Russia striking a residential building inside of Kharkiv. Horrible situation to have to report here. Also, from War Translated Dmitry, while American officials are considering whether to authorize Ukraine to use their weapons, Russia has struck again in Kharkiv. We got a 7-second video showing some of the damage here. Take a look. Okay, so once again, these are from Russian glide bombs, okay? Russia's got probably thousands of these, maybe even tens of thousands of these. They are mass producing these on a large scale, so they have unlimited amounts of these bombs, and they're never going to stop dropping them until this war ends. So it's very horrible, and this is exactly why Volodymyr Zelenskyy wants to go after their airfields to prevent their fighter bombers from being able to get close to the border of Ukraine and launch these strikes, as they don't even have to get anywhere close to Kharkiv when they launch them. I believe they can be 30 to 40, if not more, tens of more kilometers away from the strike before they unleash these glide bombs to drop on Ukraine. So also from War Translated Dmitry again, currently there are 3 dead and 22 wounded. there were hits in a high-rise building, a civilian enterprise, and in an open area. According to the city mayor, the enemy fired 8 high-explosive bombs and at residential areas of Kharkiv. So we've got a report here as well. Take a look at what he has to say. He's just going to give us an assessment on the situation. So just pay attention to the subtitles here.
Ну, по-перше, у нас було принаймні 5 влучань керованими авіабомбами по місту Харкову, декілька локацій, в тому числі пряме влучання у 9 фактично поверхівку, принаймні 4 поверхи зруйновані повністю. Так, за попередньою інформацією, під завалами можуть перебувати люди, хоча і будинок був вже частково відселений, однак все одно тут фактично ще залишалися люди і жили люди. По всім локаціям наразі відомо про 3 людей, які загинули, 22 людини отримали поранення. Окрім житлового будинку, ще влучання у цивільне підприємство, це фактично хлібзавод і інші, тобто території міста Харкова. Там є руйнування приватного житлового фонду, так. Ну, по-перше, у нас...
Okay, so according to this information, looks like another residential building was struck as well. Again, a bakery, a stadium, according to Volodymyr Zelenskyy. So lots of residential infrastructure inside of Kharkiv once again coming under attack. And like I told you guys earlier, just literally a couple days ago, Kharkiv was also hit. We also had a similar residential building, very similar looking to this, that was struck as well. And we had people injured in that attack also. So here's another picture from Yaroslav Trofimov. It says Kharkiv, not Beirut, happens almost daily, not making news anymore. Okay, so yeah, definitely these attacks in Kharkiv are not widely reported as much as it was before. I will say there is mainstream news still covering this, but it's not being reported as widely and out there like front page news as it used to be. But Kharkiv is definitely one of those big cities that comes under attack so frequently, okay? And also, obviously, it's because it's so close to the Russian border. It's very easily targeted by Russian glide bombs, and this is the aftermath of that attack, okay? So a few more pictures here also from Olena Shuliak. Kharkiv today, an ordinary apartment building in a residential area in the minds of Russian war criminals. It is a legitimate target for a strike, terrorists as they are. Our condolences to all the victims and their families. Hashtag Russia is a terrorist state. Okay, so we can see the emergency crews here working to clean up the mess, probably help rescue some of the people that are trapped under the rubble. And we can see lots of the debris here from this house, residential building when it collapsed. So, we can definitely tell a large portion of it was damaged. We can even see all these windows being blown out from this strike as well. And like I told you guys earlier, Kharkiv literally just got this residential building repaired. I think they just got done putting insulation in the building, getting the windows put back in after it was struck previously just a couple years ago. And it took them that long to get this thing repaired, and then all of a sudden now it's struck again, and now they're going to have to repair it again. So very unfortunate situation for the people of Kharkiv. Now we're going to move on to this other report from Anton Gerashenko. It says Ukrainian Defense Intelligence units liberated the Vovchansk aggregate plant from Russian troops, Intelligence Command reported. As a result of an extremely complicated and successful operation, the units completely liberated the territory of the Vovchansk aggregate plant and destroyed the occupiers and all the buildings of the enterprise. The operation was carried out by GUR task forces, Stugna, Paragon, RVC, Junger, BBC, and Terror. The intelligence soldiers carried out a systematic mop-up of the plant's buildings, constantly engaging in close combat with the enemy in restrained urban conditions. In some cases, they engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. Russians turned the aggregate plant into their propaganda fortress using the most motivated and professional units in its defense, including even soldiers of the 45th Special Purpose Brigade of the Airborne Forces, which is in Kubinka, Moscow. Okay, it says, in addition, a significant amount of artillery, kamikaze strike drones, KAB bombs, which are laser-guided bombs, and Solt Sepyok, if I'm saying that right, heavy flamethrower systems were continuously used against Ukrainian scouts. Despite the enemy's fierce resistance, Ukrainian warriors managed to destroy the enemy, take prisoners, and replenish the exchange fund. The territory of the aggregate plant was transferred to the control of the armed forces of Ukraine after all 30 buildings of the facility were cleared. Glory. Okay, so regarding this aggregate plant, We talked about this months back. This is in Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region, close to the border of Ukraine and Russia. And Vovchansk is a town that's been completely leveled to the ground. There was roughly about 17,000 people that lived here, and there was an aggregate plant for several months now that the Russians have been held up in, and apparently they were able to liberate this thing finally and get the Russians out of here. We'll watch just a little snippet of this, not the whole thing, it's a long video, but we'll see just a little bit of it. We can see this aggregate plant has been, for the most part, completely destroyed, and there's several buildings to this, and the Russians were held up in here for a very, very long time. And we finally had this report coming out as of yesterday that it looks like the Ukrainians have officially liberated this and removed the Russians from this plant that were holding themselves up in this facility. Okay, so very, very big news in regards to that. So we're going to move on now to our next update. Next reports, war with Russia is coming to an end faster than is believed. Zelenskyy in ABC News interview. I think we're closer to peace than we think. We are closer to the end of the war. At the same time, he urged Western countries to increase support for the Ukrainian army and added that the plan for victory is to strengthen Ukraine. So we ask our friends, our allies to strengthen us. This is very important, said Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He also added that Russian dictator Putin is afraid of the Kursk operation. It's true, he is very afraid. Why? Because his people have seen that he cannot defend his entire territory. The president said, emphasizing that only from a strong position Ukraine can push Putin to stop the war. Okay, so Volodymyr Zelenskyy was in an interview with ABC News that we're going to watch here, and just pay attention to what he has to say. He's going to talk about like his victory plan, and he also mentions like what Ukraine needs to do, the position they need to be in order to defeat Russia. So it's just a 54-second clip. Go ahead and take a look at what he has to say.
So, your victory plan, does it include, and I know you don't want to get into details until you talk to leaders, but negotiating with Russia, and how can you trust someone?
It's not about negotiating with Russia. No, it's about, like I said, it's a bridge to diplomatic way how to stop the war. The bridge is a plan of victory or victorious plan. It's a strengthening of Ukrainian army and Ukrainian people. Only in the strong position we can push Putin to stop the war, diplomatic way.
Zelenskyy did not say whether
Okay, we'll go ahead and pause it there. So basically what he's saying is that Ukraine needs to be in a very strong position, that they need to strengthen their army. Their army needs to have, lots of Patriot missile systems, make sure they have control of their skies. They obviously have F-16s now, which we have not seen much reports coming out from that, how well they're doing in the skies. But obviously their military needs to be strong. They need to appear as if they're winning. So that way, if Russia feels like they're losing, they will come to the negotiating table with Ukraine and end this war, is kind of what Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been saying. And this is basically everything to do with his victory plan for Ukraine to win this war, okay? That's, for the most part, what he's been discussing in terms of his victory plan. And right now, as many of you probably know, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in the United States. He's gone to multiple defense manufacturing plants. He was just checking out one yesterday where they produce, like, I think 155 millimeter artillery shells. He was just there yesterday signing some shells that are going to be sent over to Ukraine. And, and we know that he's supposed to be at the UN General Assembly that started just today. I also have a report coming out from there as well from Joe Biden. So now we're going to move on to another topic here from War Translated Dmitry. According to the Washington Post, the United States believes that Ukraine has not made a compelling case for permission to strike deep into Russia with American weapons. Ukraine is better off focusing on destroying targets in Crimea. Strikes on Russia are not worth the risk of escalation, says American officials. Okay, so this report coming out from the Washington Post supposedly saying that Ukraine has not given enough evidence to prove that it's basically worth giving permission for Ukraine to strike inside of Russia. And I know that Ukraine has struck some major weapons depots. I also have an update coming out from that in just a moment. We have seen Ukraine, make some major victories over here, striking these weapons depots, destroying upwards of 30,000 or more tons of ammunition. Many of these are the missiles that fly into Ukraine and also the glide bombs. And you would think that would, give some good insight to the American officials to allow Ukraine to be able to strike inside of Russia, but it appears to be doing the opposite. But I don't know, for some reason, I have a really big feeling they are not going to give permission for Ukraine to strike inside of Russia. And maybe some people would probably speculate maybe this is to drag out this war even longer, so it doesn't end, because obviously a lot of money is being made off this war. And if Ukraine were to start going after, Russian airfields, destroying all their airfields, their military command posts, heavy or things that are very important to Russia's military, then, obviously that may put Russia in a position where they may feel like they're losing, and maybe that's not what the West wants yet. Who knows? So definitely an interesting situation, but I just want to say up front, don't be surprised if we don't hear anything in regards to allowing Ukraine to strike inside of Russia. But then at the same time, we had a report just a few days ago that I showed you guys stating that the US and UK may give secret permission for Ukraine to strike inside of Russia, to give the elements of surprise whenever these British Storm Shadow missiles start hitting Russia. Who knows? And that could come. So we'll have to see what happens here, but that's what the Washington Post is reporting. Okay, so now also we've got some video footage coming out from Belgorod inside of Russia. Okay, so this is from Nexta. Explosions erupted in Belgorod. Local Telegram channels publish footage of the fire. We have a picture here that we could see some sort of fire that has broken out. Multiple people were sharing this picture on X. And then we've got a couple videos to go over. So let's take a look at these real quick. Okay, so we could definitely hear the sirens blaring in the background, and also we can hear some vehicles that appear to be having their alarms going off too. So that's probably a result of some shelling nearby this person where they were staying at. Maybe they just didn't catch it on the camera right away. But we did hear that Russian air defenses were active in Belgorod just tonight. So this literally was coming out probably about an hour or so before the time that I recorded this. And it's currently 11:12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's definitely in the evening over there inside of Russia right now while I'm recording this. So we've got another video to take a look at. So let's check this out. Okay, so in this video, we could definitely hear lots of explosions. Also looks like an interception there in the skies too. So probably maybe these were HIMARS striking into Belgorod again, maybe even drones coming into Belgorod. But definitely Belgorod's been one of those cities that have been heavily attacked, just over the border of Kharkiv actually too. It's not too far away from Kharkiv. So I don't know if this is a response because of what we saw happening in Kharkiv today. Maybe it was. But over the last few weeks, we have been seeing heavy shelling happening inside of the Belgorod region of Russia. So we're going to move on now to another update from Nexta again. Ammunition depots in the Tver region after Ukrainian drone strikes, satellite images. Ukrainian troops have carried out drone strikes on 2 ammunition depots of the Russian army in the Tver region and Toropets and Oktyabrski over the past few days. Russian media published satellite images of the consequences of drone strikes on these depots taken by Maxar Technologies. So I showed you guys a few of these photos just a couple days ago. Looks like we've got new ones, and look at this. Looks like a good majority of these, especially right here in the center, completely wiped out all these storage facilities and bunkers. And even up here, it looks like a good majority of them, if not all, are destroyed. There's a few here that look to be intact still. Definitely some smoke down here still. This is at the Oktyabrski weapon storage facility. Okay, I think it's called the 23rd Artillery Arsenal. And then we had the 107th that was attacked as well. I think this might be from the 107th that we're seeing here. So even some close-ups that we could see all these storage buildings that were completely destroyed. These bunkers are just now non-existent as this thing has been wiped off the face of the earth. Okay, this was definitely a massive explosion. And if this was the 107th that exploded, explains why we see just lots of these trees just blown out and just charring here on the ground, as the explosion from here even triggered what appeared to be like a 2.8 magnitude earthquake or equivalent to that. That's how big of an explosion this was at this facility, also in the Tver region, okay? So now we're going to move on to another update. I've got something coming out from Belarus now. This has been widely shared on X as well today. Belarusian dictator Lukashenko said the country should prepare for war. Okay, so this is the second time, if I'm not mistaken, just in the last maybe month or two, that I have seen the Belarusian president, Alexander Lukashenko, come out and say that his country needs to prepare for war. So it's a little difficult to pay attention to some of the subtitles. It'll kind of match in with some of the background every now and then, but try your best to read what he has to say. But he's basically telling his officers here that they need to get prepared for war, that they don't want war, but they're preparing for it right now. So take a look at this, 2 minutes long.
Старая формула. Хочешь мира, готовься к войне. Еще раз хочу подчеркнуть, хотя, в принципе, что нам тут перед кем-то оправдываться? Что мы не собираемся воевать, мы не хотим воевать. Все это уже сказано. Но это слушают, но делают свое дело. Наши противники, наши соперники, те, кто готовится против нас, будем прямо говорить, воевать. Поэтому нам надо готовиться к войне. И дай Бог, чтобы этой войны не было. Как бы ни была острая обстановка вокруг Беларуси, мы пока не наблюдаем тенденций к развязыванию против нас войны. Но, видя, как разворачиваются события на фронте в соседнем государстве и изучая войны, которые случились в последние годы в мире, мы, как я уже часто говорю, реформировали 4 свою армию, а это, наверное, уже 5-й раз подходим к модернизации собственных вооруженных сил. Мы много увидели новинок, поэтому сегодня обсудим это. Первое – это война. Правда, я сегодня услышал тезис от нашего ведущего на учении, новый. Ранее я этого не слышал, и слава Богу. Но мы всегда считали и считаем, что нынешняя война без беспилотников невозможна. Сегодня он сказал, что как бы там ни было, беспилотники, они могут повернуть войну, развернуть и так далее, но без солдата, без надежного оружия у этого солдата мы не сможем обороняться в Беларуси, ну и нас никто не сможет завоевать. Поэтому да, беспилотники – это серьезная новинка. Да, она, наверное, войну, если вдруг случится, она вспять не повернет, наверное, но значительно повлияет на ход военных действий.
Okay, so very interesting, right? We have definitely seen Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, coming out a lot lately talking about war, and we know that they have also deployed many of their troops and military equipment on the border with Ukraine also. So as far as I know, their military is still there on the border. They have not withdrawn. So I don't know exactly what Belarus is doing. I don't know what they're preparing for or what they're planning for, but according to him, he's come out multiple times saying that they are preparing for war. So we'll have to see what Belarus's plan is. Maybe there really is a situation where they could be invaded by Ukraine. I wouldn't think Ukraine would do that, but why else would they be on the border other than maybe launching a major attack onto Ukraine as well? And it could be an offensive operation. Who knows? And we did report just a few weeks back as well that Belarusian tanks and a lot of their military equipment were showing up on the border with tactical signs with the letter B on it, indicating that maybe they are preparing to go to war. So who knows? Let me know what you think down below. Is Belarus just saber rattling, or are they preparing to go to war? Let me know what you think. So moving on now, we've got some more video footage here of more Russian soldiers that have surrendered in the Kursk region. So it says here, we'll go ahead and let this play. Another pack of Russian POWs. It means Ukraine is advancing in Kursk. Okay, this is from PS01. And unfortunately, this video does have music to it. So I can't exactly show it, but we can see more Russian soldiers that have surrendered to the Ukrainians in the Kursk region. Okay, so again, this does show, I have to agree, that they are advancing. If they are taking some of these Russian prisoners here inside of the Kursk region, then that does show for sure that they are moving forward. I don't have any updates as far as maps or anything. Again, we still don't see a whole lot coming out from the Kursk region. Last I heard, the front line is really not moving much. It's kind of at a stalemate or a standstill for the most part, but I have heard a few reports showing that the Ukrainians are starting to move a little bit north on the furthest and northest side of the incursion. Other than that, haven't really heard much movement over here, okay? So also we've got this video footage coming out from Vuhledar once again. From War Translated Dmitry, it was a morning in Vuhledar. The situation is critical, but the soldiers of the 72nd Brigade continue to hold the line. So we showed you guys video footage probably a couple weeks back, I want to say, of Vuhledar coming under heavy attack. Okay, this is probably one of the areas where we see the most heaviest bombing. I mean, look at this. Vuhledar is just hammered to the ground repeatedly, and we know that Ukrainians are trying desperately to hold on to this city as well. It's just been insane amounts of fighting, lots of missiles being used in this area, and we can see a lot of these strikes happening here from the Russians, okay? So now moving on, also, we're going to talk about China for a couple posts here. Next to reports, China is becoming a serious problem for Ukraine. About 60% of components in Russian arms are Chinese-made. Zelenskyy advisor Vlasyuk told Reuters in an interview. According to him, Russia uses a large number of components from China in drones, surveillance systems, and missiles. At the same time, some of the parts are Western and are supplied from the United States, the Netherlands, Japan, Switzerland, among others. However, it is China that is the key supplier for the Russian defense industry, the official said. Okay, so Ukraine once again coming out and trying to say that China's involved in this. China's been trying to stay in the middle and say they don't want to be a part of this war. They have not been supplying any weapons or anything like that over to Russia. But some people would say that China is doing this, and many of their weaponry has Chinese components in them, and maybe they could be getting them from other countries as well, which is very possible. And that's kind of what this report is going to talk about also. From Nexta, Russians used Chinese armored vehicles in Ukraine for the first time, says the Bild magazine. Recently, one of the Z channels in Telegram published a photo of the Russian military with the Chinese armored vehicle ZFB-05 in the Special Military Operations Zone. Analyst Julian Ropke confirmed the authenticity of the photos and emphasizes that this is the first evidence of the use of Chinese military equipment in Ukraine. The Russian invasion army used Chinese armored vehicles like ZFB-05 in Ukraine for the first time. China denies that it supplied this vehicle. However, there are many African intermediaries that Russia could have used, Ropke wrote. Okay, so here's a picture of one of those vehicles. I'm assuming it's this one right here. Yeah, so apparently this is Chinese made, and we're starting to see Chinese equipment showing up here. Now, again, maybe Russia's getting this from other countries. Maybe China sells these on to, African nations. Then maybe, Russia's doing some deals with Africa to get some of this equipment. But, we're seeing this on both sides. This is exactly what Ukraine is doing. Ukraine's doing this with their Western partners also. So, definitely the West is trying to pin China and say they're involved in this, but China's come out many times to say they are not supplying anything over to Russia in terms of this war, at least directly, but maybe they are getting some of this equipment from some other countries, okay, as they're doing like secondary transactions. So also now we're going to talk about Norway for a minute. There was a report that came out today. It says here from Norwegian for Ukraine. A Norwegian fishing vessel was shot at by a Russian warship in the Barents Sea and Norwegian territorial waters. The encounter happened after the Norwegian vessel refused to move from its fishing lines despite being commanded by the Russian military. So I pulled up this report to show you guys real quick, give you a little bit of outlook on this story. It's from Politico. It says Russian warship fired warning shot at Norwegian fishing boat. It was a powerful blast. Our boat was shaking, the Norwegian vessel's captain said. So this is what was reported. This came out today, September 24th, 2024. A Russian warship menaced a Norwegian fishing vessel in the Arctic Ocean earlier this month, firing a warning shot that forced it to flee, according to the small boat skipper. The incident occurred at September 12th in the Barents Sea off Norway's northern coast and involved Russian anti-submarine destroyer Admiral Levchenko, which was participating in a military exercise, and a small Norwegian fishing boat. I was called up on the radio. This is Russian warship. You need to leave the area, the Norwegian vessel's captain, Oystein Orton, told me local media. I replied that there is no question of us moving. We had lines to haul, so they were refusing to move when this Russian warship was telling them to leave the area because they were doing a military exercise. It says Orton and his crew of 5 said the 163-meter warship then barreled toward their 15-meter fishing boat, blowing its horn and firing a warning shot that exploded in the water near their vessel. It was a powerful blast. Our boats was shaking, Orton said, adding they quickly sailed a safe distance away. A spokesperson for the Norwegian Joint Headquarters confirmed to local media that a radio conversation took place between the Russian warship and the Norwegian fishing vessel, but said it did not observe the warning shot. The incident occurred in Norway's exclusive economic zone in the Barents Sea, which is divided between Norway and Russia. The Kremlin in recent years conducted military drills and missile launches inside Norway's exclusive economic zone, angering Norwegian fishermen in the area. Russia's foreign minister warned last week that Moscow was fully ready to defend its interests in the Arctic. Okay, so looks like we had a dangerous situation here where these Norwegian fishermen were potentially shot at by this Russian warship and basically chased out of the area of Norway's economic exclusive zone. Okay, so very dangerous situation. This could have gone much worse, but thankfully, from what's being reported, these fishermen were able to just turn around and head back away from the area as Russia was conducting military exercises. And we know that they've been doing that a lot lately over the past couple weeks, especially up in the Arctic areas. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Also now coming out from Estonia, Jürgen Noddet reports Estonia and Finland are developing plans to close the Gulf of Finland to Russian ships and block their access to the Baltic Sea. According to Estonian head of state Andrus Murillo, in a comment to, if I'm going to pronounce this right, Helsingin Sanomat, countries can close the sea to the Russian fleet due to security considerations. So apparently Estonia can do this. We actually had this report. I'm going to show you. This came out back in May, talking about this. That actually Estonia was considering blockading the entire Baltic Sea. So here's a map of the Gulf of Finland here, but I've got this other map on Google Maps to show you. It's a little bit better what they're talking about. So we'll zoom into Estonia over here with the border of Russia. Here's St. Petersburg. So the Gulf of Finland is what they're talking about trying to block access to. So the Russian fleets, their sea fleets cannot come in here, okay? Their navy. And obviously this would pose a big problem for Russia. And obviously over here in the Baltic Sea, NATO completely surrounds it, okay? We've got Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Germany taking pretty much full control of the Baltic Sea. And I'm going to show you this report right now that we went over this, okay? This is on Militarny. And I actually did a video on this back in May. This says Estonia proposes to blockade the Baltic Sea for Russia, and we'll just kind of briefly go over this part here. It says, Commander of the Estonian Defense Forces suggested preparing for a possible blockade of the Baltic Sea. General Martin Herem, which is this gentleman right here in the photo, says the statement is quoted in the Defense Forces yearbook. According to General Herem, Estonia has the capabilities to achieve this goal. The Navy currently has both naval mines and anti-ship missiles in service, along with Poland, Sweden, and Finland, which have just joined NATO. We should be able to attain one of our key objectives, the possible blockade of the Baltic Sea, General Martin Herem said. So this is what he said back in May. And I remember doing this whole report on this, talking about this, that they were planning to potentially blockade the Baltic Sea. So is this what Estonia is talking about? Are they planning for a potential blockade? This report over here is talking about wanting to cut off the Gulf of Finland. This could be the beginning of that. That's when maybe they would start planning mines and blockades, trying to stop Russia's fleet from getting into here. So I don't know if that's exactly what we're seeing, but I wanted to share that with you when it comes to this report on Militarny, as I do remember covering that. This could be what NATO is preparing to do over here, okay? So now we're going to move on to next. So once again, Biden at UN General Assembly urged not to weaken support for Ukraine. We cannot allow the situation to remain unchanged. We must maintain our support for Ukraine in order to preserve the country's freedom. We cannot turn a blind eye to aggression because it will lead to the destruction of a nation. For me, the answer is clear. For Ukraine to achieve a lasting, sustainable peace under the UN Charter, we cannot tire, we cannot look away, and we cannot weaken our support for Ukraine, he said. This is Joe Biden's latest speech at the UN General Assembly as the U.S. president. Okay, so this is his final speech at the UN General Assembly, basically stating that the U.S. needs to stand with Ukraine along with NATO partners, Western partners, stick with Ukraine to the end and defend them, give them the weapons they need. So it looks like NATO is going to continue to support Ukraine for a number of months or years to come, however long this war continues on for, okay, is basically what I'm hearing from that. Okay, also a few more things to go over. Next reports, the U.S. will announce a military aid package for Ukraine tomorrow. So I talked about this military aid package, I think, just a couple days ago. And supposedly this was supposed to be reported Monday, which was yesterday. But it looks like it's going to come out tomorrow now, maybe on Wednesday. So it says this is reported by Voice of America. According to the publication sources, the total cost of weapons will be up to $375 million. Package will include missiles for F-16s to hit ground targets. Such missiles will allow Ukrainian F-16s to operate far from the front line and enemy air defense systems. In addition, the package will include missiles for HIMARS, patrol boats, armored vehicles, as well as 155mm projectiles, 105mm projectiles, and tow missiles. Okay, so looks like a pretty good sized package going to Ukraine pretty soon. And in regards to this package, I did report to you guys as well, we could potentially hear the announcement of JASSM missiles going to Ukraine as well. These are like medium range missiles that do have extended range as well, but it's a different type of missile they would have to send. But the medium range ones they were thinking about sending to Ukraine that could be attached to the F-16s that we see here in this picture. So those are the joint air-to-surface standoff missiles that we've been discussing. So we'll see if that gets announced too, but I haven't heard anything yet as to whether it will be announced. So maybe we'll find out tomorrow. Okay, also from Anton Gerashenko, the war in Ukraine will end when Putin decides that the invasion was a mistake, that he will not achieve his goals at an acceptable price, Foreign Minister of Poland said in an interview with MSNBC. To Putin, the war is now a precondition to his rule and probably physical existence. There is no price too high for him. Putin does not care how many Russians die in meat assaults and how poor Russia can become. The war of Russia in Ukraine will end when Putin faces the fact that he is no longer able to wage war or Putin himself dies one way or another. I do agree with Sikorsky that the war-raging capabilities of the Russian economy and army are not endless. Helping Ukraine develop our defense industry is one of the ways to weaken Russia. Ukrainian allies have the means to exhaust Russia and bring Ukrainian victory much closer. We are grateful to Poland and all allies for standing with us while Ukraine defends the future of global democracy. So there is a video here, but there's so much chattering going on, it's really hard to pay attention to even the subtitles down here. And this is basically what he said during this interview. So from what I understand from this, Radoslaw Sikorsky, the foreign minister of Poland, coming out and saying that NATO allies need to stand with Ukraine, support them with as much weaponry as possible so to exhaust Russia, that Russia cannot continue fighting this war forever. Their economy will not be able to sustain it. They won't have the troop numbers to continue sustaining whatever it might be. Basically another show of support for Ukraine is kind of what is being reported here. So Radoslaw Sikorsky has come out saying a lot of things like this recently. It's very common for him to speak like that. Now, one last thing in terms of Russia's economy. Also, RiceGrad24, Russia has released a 3-year draft budget with record high military spending. Putin plans to spend 6.2% of Russia's GDP on the military in 2025. And it says here 5.6% of GDP in 2026, 5.1% of GDP in 2027. Okay, so definitely record amounts of military spending with Russia right now. And again, in regards to their economy, can they maintain this forever, spending so much money? I think even what was being reported, I did see some reports that they were spending more money on their military than even some of their social programs, okay, to support their, some of their people that may be retired in their country, whatever it might be. So even some of their social programs are being less funded than their military right now. So definitely Vladimir Putin is very committed to this war in Ukraine. So will they be able to keep up, the fighting over here for years to come? Who knows? But we know that Volodymyr Zelenskyy is ready to end this war right now. And obviously a large part of his victory plan has to do with striking inside of Russia. And he believes that if Ukraine has the ability to do this and the permission to strike Russian airfields and take out a lot of their equipment using long-range missiles, this could potentially force Vladimir Putin to end this war and negotiate with Russia and maybe even potentially pull out of the areas that they have taken. Who knows what would happen? But yeah, guys, lots of information coming out today. Just wanted to share some of these details with you. I hope you got something out of this update. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.